Yeah, it's an alternate format, so not only just using a physical magnifier, which you can actually have the same document in large print form, in Braille, maybe in swell diagrams. So often maps and plans, they'll do them on it's like a vacuum forming machine that sort of creates raised lines around. So if we wanted to do a fire escape plan for this building, we might do a raised one. So you can feel, right, okay, that's where the fire escape door is. That's, yeah, topical. So that's way too light. Now, contrast is really important. That particularly helps for, and font choice as well, but particularly helps for low vision, is the obvious one that you think of, but also dyslexia. So if it's really hard to read, you're already finding it difficult to get the shapes of the words. You're then having to struggle to make them out from the background. So yeah, that grey is clearly too light, and that's slightly better, but it still doesn't meet the standard. If you're doing what I always sort of advise for PDFs and digital documents is assume they're going to be seen on screen, because otherwise you'd print them out. So I would say that the standards for web content apply to documents as well. And there's a simple tool, which there's a link for it later on, that basically says, gives me the colour value of the grey, the colour value of the white, matches the two of them, gives you a contrast, and it's a go, no go. To be fair, you could probably look at both of those and go, they're too light. See, that green is it's slightly better. So they're all the same font and size, but which one's easiest to read? And I know they're thrown up really large. I mean, imagine that was like 10 points on your paper, or 8 point. That's much easier. Again, size matters. Often you can actually, because of the way things render digitally, you get a fuzziness around a letter. They sort of dither the outline, so you might have black might be the colour of the font, but what it's actually presented, it's black that fades into grey that smooths into the paper. So the actual apparent contrast is much lower. So that's another thing to watch for. So if you're having too much of that, and your black actually looks like quite a light grey, maybe think about a stronger stroke, a heavier font. So using a simple font, so a sans serif font that was designed for screen use anyway. That's not come through. That's one of the problems we've had transferring. Oh, yes, that was the thing. It was in Wing. It was some sort of loopy, curly handwriting font. Now I remember.
Okay, so we've got a slight conflict between Kim's Mac presentation and the fact that we had to save it onto our Windows environment. Yeah,
that was done in one of those handwriting fonts, which looked actually didn't even look good. Sorry, it looked horrible.
Yeah. So probably not the easiest font as the bit that was on the script.
Yes, and then the comparison was a sans serif followed it. Yeah, I was looking at it again. It's different, but why did I choose that one?
Yeah, doesn't look particularly difficult.
No, it was one of those horrible. It wasn't quite Wingdings, but it was heading that way. Right. Yeah. All caps is bad as well, because you lose the shape. I'm not telling anyone anything they don't know here. So it's okay to have a small amount of caps, but don't paragraph after paragraph of caps is just really hard to read. You lose the shape of the words. You might make a stylistic decision to do that, but why? Your reason you're writing your document, putting your website up, is to get information to people so they can do something with it. Why would you make it hard for them to read?
If it's the small print.
Yeah.
The fine print.
Yes. That might be a deliberate policy decision.
It is sometimes.
Yes. And remember I was talking about using the reversal of colours? Yellow on black is the one that people talk about a lot as being probably the best for reading. You don't have to create your documents this way, unless the person you're writing it for says, could you do it in yellow and black for me, please? Because they'll have the tools. Someone who appreciates this will have the tools to do it, but it's worth just seeing the difference. I mean, look how much easier that is to read than slightly larger, but even than that, yeah. And again, because the light emitted from the screen is in the yellow, it's much easier. There's less glare, there's less trouble if you're photophobic at all. So using multiple sensory characteristics, basically the principle is you don't put any information that can only be seen or perceived in one way. So if you put something in a video, you make sure there's captions or there's text alongside that tells you the same information, or you use alt text, which we'll talk about later. So if you've got a picture of your logo with the words on it, that's no good if you can't see the logo. What you need to use is the alt text. If you've got a video, you can either have some descriptive commentary on it that tells you all the information, and the thing to remember, is everyone familiar with Psycho, the movie? I haven't got time to show the clip now. The bit where she goes into the shower to the next spoken word is 5 minutes. And if you can't see that, hearing the sounds doesn't give you the information that you're being given visually. It doesn't say that the shadows appeared behind the curtain, there's a knife raised, there's blood running. So it's important not to have things only in one. Yeah. That's the difference between closed captions and audio description as well. Audio description would tell you all about, the shower curtains ripping and her dropping on the floor. Yeah. Whereas captions would just probably go, ah! Because it's about the only thing in there.
Still get a long silence. And
yes.
Ah!
Yeah, and you have no idea what happened. I mean, is she in the shower? Is it raining?
Imagine the suspense, though.
Yeah. I mean, the music probably gives you a clue that there's something bad going on. So, the example I'm going to use brings us back to documents and away from motels. Don't use... It's not that good. That's good wine. Use of colour or sound alone to convey meaning is not. So, this doesn't work either because of the... So if we pretend that you can't see this bit, if I'm colourblind, how do I know who passed and failed? Even if the key at the top says green is fail and red is pass. But if I say John Smith failed, and I can still use the red. It's not that you can't use the red and the colour to distinguish, but you need something that's not. So if you think about it in context of maybe a map, we've done a lot of work at the council recently on track maps, which is great until you print them out. So instead of saying, well, that one's blue and that one's, they're both grey. Right. That one's dotted, that one's thick, that one's thin. You need to have more than one characteristic that differs to make sense. Yeah? Back to documents there, that was good. So yeah, we talked about transcripts, we talked about audio description. I say audio description is more than the words that are spoken, it's the message that the video or the movie is trying to convey. Particularly important if you think about some of the health and safety type things. So if you've got a we'll say fire evacuation movie, it's no good. The guy stands at the front. When you have a fire, the alarm will ring, great, and then watch everybody filing out through the particular door, unless there's something saying, actually they're leaving by the door that's at the rear of, because that's just visual. Text and graphics, again, I talked about, so use alt text for where you have graphics with text. Preferably you don't use text and graphics for anything, but it's going to happen. They give in the web standards, they give you a let-out for logos, but again, you should have alt text that tells you. And I'm going to leave that because we come to an example later and you have to do some work. But yeah, alt text. So alt text it's not on your page. It sits within the metadata behind an image, but it's read out by a screen reader when they get to the image. And the alt text of C://1234567 is really useless. As often happens.
And inescapable, and I think that's the other thing that people don't understand about people listening to a screen reader is they can't say, only read me the good alt text. No. They have to listen to all the shit as well. Yeah.
Yeah, often you'll find a file name is used as the alt text, which is really, really horrible. So alt text. I don't know what's happened to the font there. I think I'm going to put that down to the conversion process.
Exactly.
I didn't graduate from GDID, that's why it's bad. So the important thing is, what information does the image just convey? So this is something we didn't really cover deeply last time I was here, so Emma asked me to go into this a little bit. So is the image purely decorative? So does it add nothing to your looking around for one? We'll come to some examples. Is it irrelevant? So someone's made a choice, but it's just a picture. Does the image convey something that's already conveyed in the text? So you might want to say, this image shows XYZ that we've talked about in the text. But is it something new? Is there something in that picture that isn't in the text? And that's the important thing you need to get across. Good example I came across on website. It was probably the most terrifying job I ever did, but I spent some time consulting with a ladies' health organisation. And the things I've learned are mind-blowing. But what they've done very carefully, they've chosen they've chosen a number of women to illustrate this. And for optics, they said, well, we'll just put a picture of Jane. Actually, no. Look at what you've done here. You've very carefully chosen. There was a young Maori lady, there was an older Pacifica lady, and very clearly they've been chosen for that, to demonstrate that it's not just white middle-class women that care about this stuff. It was about everybody. It was very clear they'd done that. So think about why you've chosen a particular image, and is there something in the information of why you've chosen that image? Now, as a content writer, you may not know what's in. You might be working on someone else's piece. You might not know exactly what's behind the choice. But if you make that guess that there's something there, and maybe go back to the original author and ask them, did you choose that particular picture for a reason? And if so, what's the message? I won't go deeply into it. I'm going to suggest you have a look at this slide share from Whitney Quisenbury. That was the really good piece of stuff about alt text that I found after I was commissioned to go and find some.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So we'll publish some more stuff about about alt text.
Yeah.
Upcoming tech on NZs.
I sort of read. I read that and I can't really just steal it wholesale. That would be bad.
It would.
Yeah. But I can give you the link, and we'll talk about talking about most of the things, but she goes into some much more depth. Another good source was the W3. W3 is the World Wide Web Consortium.
Yes.
Yeah, so they publish the international accessibility standards. They also do HTML standards, all sorts of standards. And they've got some very good notes about images. So there'll be a couple of quotes in the next few. But is everyone sort of ready to do a bit of work? Okay. So that's your website or your document. 2 images on there that I'm bothered about right now. So there's the logo, and there's this image here. So, any thoughts on alt text? Having talked about, is it relevant? Is it giving me any new information? What's the message? Should we start with the logo? Any thoughts what you put on the alt text?
Tax logo?
Might do, but that wouldn't really tell me everything that logo's telling me, would it?
Inland revenue.
Anything else? You're along the line. Between you're along the line. So yeah, the inland revenue. Logo, inland revenue.
Inland revenue or something.
Anything else that's in the image that you're not telling me? Because remember, I can't see the image.
The narrow translation.
Spot on. Particularly in New Zealand. Don't forget we're multilingual. That's part of the title. And I see it missed off so many times. In this case, it's also a button. So you don't need to tell the technology that it's a button. The technology will work that out if it's coded right, which it is. But you might want to say links to the home. Yeah. So this one down here. Any thoughts what you put on that one?
Fluff. Well, actually, bullshit. But
yeah, I mean, You could consider it. It depends whether that's a brand that you're pushing, the Making Tax Simpler brand. So you might put the Making Tax Simpler, or you might just say that's actually decorative, and maybe put alt equals just 2 quotes. Careful, that's what we call a null alt text, and I've actually seen someone write alt equals quote null quote, which actually isn't a null alt text, it's an alt text of null.
The worst bit about it is on their website it actually changes every...
Yes, I avoided that bit, but yes. I wasn't going to get into carousels. By the way, the only people that like carousels are marketing people. Seriously. All the research says don't go there, no one pays any attention to it. But marketing people are insistent that they want to get 3 messages up where one would go. You can point the evidence.
I think this one on the tech community website, move on.
We're moving on. Okay, so all the words, especially in a logo, don't forget the Terreo. And you don't need to identify the button as a link. And I think that's covered in some of the things. Okay. This is on a page. I just wanted to find a simple one. It doesn't mean anything in particular. If you imagine it's in a page of text, the text talks about the process and how you get from, it covers it all in complete detail, so what might you want to put as the alt text? Remembering, is it irrelevant? Is it additional information? Is it already covered in the text? Any thoughts?
Decision flowchart?
Yeah.
Already covered in the text.
I'd combine the two, yeah. Because one thing I never thought about was, the headshots you get in, I don't know, the tech comms exec has sat there with their lovely headshots. So I always think, well, they're just decorative. Sorry. But actually, until a friend of mine pointed out, what if I'm meeting them at the airport and I want to tell the taxi driver who I'm meeting? I need to know there's a picture, or it's useful for me to know there's a picture of Emma. So I'd say, this is the person you're looking for who gets off the aeroplane. So, again, think about how people might use it. But yeah, spot on. You don't need to do a massive alt text that describes exactly that. There's a little box that says start and it's got a U-shaped arrow that goes down. It's a flowchart that expands on the information we've given you in the text. It's an alternate presentation. Yeah.
Sometimes, though, it's if that's the only way it's presented, then you actually have to put into the alt text the process. Yeah.
Or you would consider rewriting the text if you could, so that you're not only presenting information one way.
Yeah.
Yes, but you're right. You might have to have an extended description.
And this is what I came back to, is that you go into the alt text in every interface I've ever seen, it's about this big. Yeah. And you think, I can't put a big process in there, but actually you put as much as you need to. Yeah. But whether that's a good idea is a whole other bit.
Yeah, I wasn't going to get into that too much tonight.
That's fine.
Yeah. So the W3C notes that I got earlier say, if it's sufficiently described in the text, then it can have a brief alt text such as diagram of the workflow we've already described. It's useful to know that there's a diagram there because you might want to share it with a sighted colleague, but you don't need to describe the thing you've already had described. It's also useful to know that you're not being shortchanged, that the information in this graphic that you can't see, that you're aware of, you're not missing anything either. So, that's a bit of courtesy there. Okay. This graphic here. Any thoughts? Decorative? Give you any more information? Just because it's really small, I will note that it says there, present to schools, community groups, expos at community. So my feeling, I'll ask the audience. Any thoughts as to what you put as an alt text for that? There's no right answer.
An example of the graffiti program in a community event or is it the presentation place, wherever it happens to be?
You could if you wanted to. I'd be tempted to say that's decorative because it doesn't add anything that's not already.
Oh, it's tricky though, isn't it?
It's tricky. You get into grey areas.
Paul would say, if there's a picture there, I want to know what it is.
Well, you can give it alt equals null. And he won't even know it's there.
Yes.
I'd argue
you should either do that.
Yeah, it must have an alt text of some kind, even if that alt text is empty.
expo booth
Yeah,
with
our graffiti
people-
expo booth
Yeah.
at a school. You could, either way, there's no right answer to that. It's down to how important you think that image is, and I deliberately chose one that was kind of grey area. So yeah, decorative or important. I don't think it's given me anything that, whilst there is text on there, the text isn't information.
When you're trying to decide whether something's decorative or important, I think it's important to think about the fact that when you're looking at something, it's easy to ignore it.
Yeah.
If you can make a really fast decision that that's crap.
Yeah.
When you have to listen to it all, even though these people who are blind can listen to things several times faster than anybody else, it's a whole other thing. They still do have to actually listen to it being read to them.
I'm not sure if I picked the quote from it, but there was in one of, I think it was in Witness presentation. It said, imagine you're trying to stand up and tell someone about this, and they can't see the picture. Not that they're blind, but I'm just reading it from the sheet. What would you do with the information in that picture? Is there anything in there that they wouldn't get if you just read the words?
You want to just exclude it because less is more situation.
I think it's the other way. If you didn't have that picture there, other than it not looking so pretty.
I was going to say, can it be disruptive too if you are kind of got a flow of reading something and it's
No.
new information?
No.
Does on text disrupt or not?
No, it's sort of. I suppose it could. It depends where it sits in the flow.
Yeah, okay. Do you determine that though?
Yes.
Right.
Well, you determine where you're putting the image.
Yeah. Okay.
Of course, if the text wraps around it and happens to come, it might be that the pictures. You've chosen to put the picture there,
Yeah.
or you might have chosen to put the picture first.
Yeah.
And it could be that if you put alt text on it, it's actually going to, as you said, confuse the
Yeah,
message
that's
because you're
right.
getting information
Yeah.
in the wrong order, or before you're ready, before you've got the context.
It does, because graffiti is something that is quite gets people's emotions.
Yeah.
And the picture is presenting a friendly face to let's work on graffiti, not let's catch the little bastards. So
Now you're thinking.
So the picture conveys that message of
Yes.
the community aspect to it, as opposed to we're going to.
Now you're thinking. I say it was deliberately chosen because it's quite a grey area. I could go either way with that picture. Let's say the information's there, but you're right, there might be a tone piece that you're not getting. But you might want to consider, actually, should I make that part of the voice of the words? Don't know. It's a grey area, it's a good one. Probably a multicoloured, scribbly area. This is kind of similar to what I was talking about with the... So, have we got a bunch of cute dogs here? Or have we got something else? Bit of context to this, and it's a bit unfair, you haven't got the context of where they came from. So, it's from a BBC, and I should have put where they came from. They're from a BBC article about the different types of assistance animal. So, given that you've got a bunch of words, are they actually saying, is there anything in there, or is they just cute dogs?
From what I know of assistance dogs, they're not always that cute. In the sense of, you don't usually walk up to a guide dog and start petting it and playing with it. They're a working dog. So the ones like the boy in the top right is possibly autistic or something.
I think it
he's
is
got that companion dog.
As
opposed to the one at the bottom left that's helping you get the washing.
Remember what I said about looking at the pictures and trying to see why we've chosen those pictures? Is there anything particular about them?
They all have a person in them.
Anything particular about the dogs?
They're all describing different types of assistance dogs. Or showing.
Yeah, I think to me the key thing was where they go away from being a bunch of cute dogs is you can talk about how clever they are or how cute they are or how much they're bonded with their owners. But, they've all got very different jackets because they're all different types. So, yeah, that's kind of important.
Right.
Yeah. So there is some important information there that you may not have got in the words. You did in this article. Yeah. The important thing is not that they're cute. Yeah. Oh, I did get the quote. I'll let you read it because I can. Okay, so we're going to have to move on. So is that the same sort of thing here? What about this image? So it's from a landing page. It's got a cute dog on it. I presume the child's cute as well, I don't know. How would you... Does it add anything to the page?
Well, it does if you could see it.
Yeah, but is it adding any information? I'd say that's a null. The fact there's a cute dog on there is irrelevant to what you're trying to achieve on that page. As you said, it's disrupting the flow because it comes between the header and the links to the... Yeah. I mean, you could say it's a picture of a cute dog, but what would it add? You know it's the dogs and animals page.
You're not suggesting that it shouldn't be there for the
No,
sighted, right?
no, I'm suggesting it probably is an alt equals null.
Yeah.
It is just a cute dog. It's there. It's eye candy.
Having said that, though, Emma, because I've gone to that page a number of times, you're either there reporting problems, looking for a lost dog, or how much your registration fee is.
Yeah.
So the
Using
picture
perspective, it's
the-
gold, isn't it?
So
The
that's-
picture's there to make you feel happy when you're doing those bad things.
Yeah. So it's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose it tells you, helps a sighted
Yeah.
person realise that there's a dogs and animals page.
Yeah. But it wouldn't add anything because you've already got the word dog if you're listening to the words. So alternative text depends on context. So the context of these two sets of images was completely different. I think it's brilliant that they use that image, which that example. So a kennel club website, the alt text might include the breed of dog because that might be important. It might be important that this group is shepherds, whatever. But on a dog park website, it's just there to make it more attractive. Yep. Just for those that are not sure how to get alt text in, there's a picture, right-click on the picture, or the various ways you get your plots. Yes, it's one of mine.
It's gorgeous.
I'm hoping I haven't got any horrible grammar out there as well. Yeah, so it's got the title, but the description is where the alt text is picked up from.
Well, that's a really big alt text field because normally they're
That's Word.
more like the size of the title one.
Yeah. So you right click. It's in the. What do you call the right click menu?
Right.
My brain's gone.
Format properties.
The extended menu, whichever way you need to get to it, and then there's an alt text box there. That's in Word. If you do save as PDF from your Word documents, put my teeth in, they'll all get transferred across as well, as will your styles. So this is more of a web thing, but if you're moving around, like visible focus. So whenever there's a control, making sure that it's got a visible focus. So if you're putting a document into a place or into context on a web page, maybe you might have to say to your tickets, hey, when I tab through, when it went to the links and the buttons, there was no visual change. So you know that really ugly box you get around things sometimes? It doesn't have to be like that. Or when you're tabbing through a menu and it changes colours with the one as you tab, and you can tell where you are, and then suddenly it disappears because they've styled that bit differently. So visible focus is really important for sighted non-mouse users. Otherwise, how do you know what control you're about to click? So if the Buy It Now button doesn't light up, how do you know you've got Buy It Now or... Yep. Skip links, again for... again, it's back in the techie side, so I'll skip over it a little bit, but if you imagine a big menu, like at the top of the council's website, if you've got to tab through that every time to get to the button in the middle of the page, you're going to get really annoyed. Whereas skip links allow you to go one tab, and it says skip to main content, and it'll take the focus down to the main content, so you're not tabbing around, or if you're using the sip and puff, you're not crazy. There's no news here for Tech Commons members. Logical structure to your document. You know, order it so it's going to come right. Don't forget some of the PDF converters just throw stuff on the page in some sort of machine-determined way rather than the way you're seeing it with your eyes. Consistent, so if you're going across a number of pages in a website or across a number of documents about the same as a part of a set, if you have, I don't know, the back to home button at the top left on page 1, keep it in the same place on page 2, 3, 4. Yep. So it's consistent, it feels the same. If you get lost, or if you're using magnification, you know where to slide the magnification window to go find the get me out of here and get me back. Making your headings clear. Bold and underline doesn't make a heading. Sorry. H1, H2, H3 makes a heading. Yeah. You can bold and underline it if you like, although you probably get shot around here. But giving it the style. Same goes for strong, instead of not just turning the bold on, but making it strong text in the background. And using CSS for your styling, so body text, paragraph text, unordered lists, that kind of thing. Yeah, so don't use a full stop as a bullet point, please. Or a cute picture of a cat.
Tag your paragraphs with styles. It's it's more important than protein.
Sorry, what was your comment about PDF generators?
Some of them, they basically seem to assemble the PDF. So you write your document,
yeah.
And then the PDF generator takes, well, I want a bit of that and a bit, and they assemble it on the page. They sort of write it on the page in the order that the machine writes it. So it might go and get all the graphics, put them on. Then it might go and get all the headings. Then it'll go and get all the paragraphs.
And the order in which they've been plonked into that PDF
is the order in which you arrow through it.
Really?
Yeah.
Or that the screen reader will read.
Yes. Often you'll find it with a lot of these companies that do automated bills. They take your gas bill and put it online. So you might find you've got all the headings. There's someone here that works on gas bills.
No, I'm just thinking how irritating that would be if you just got all this information at the end, you just got a whole heap of numbers.
Yeah, that's exactly what you get, honestly. So you might hear, I don't know, gas bill total, 12 units at so many dollars, 16 units at so many dollars, and then you'll hear 3, 9, 12, and you've got no idea which one's the actual number you've got to pay. You guess it's the big one. Yeah, it's really, really awful.
Is that a problem with screens, the readers themselves? So shouldn't they just know there's an X and a Y axis and work their way across?
No, because they're taking the information that they've presented and it's saying the next thing in the reading order is this block.
Yeah, and the X and Y axis could be
and that could be wrong as well.
Very misleading.
Tables particularly hard. Look, magnification, just a quick one. If you're using 2 times magnification, you can see about a quarter of the screen. Sorry, I know it's not a maths group, but that's fairly obvious. That's where if you... I just couldn't believe how stupid I sounded saying that. You can see exactly a quarter of the screen. So most people, if they get a magnifier out of the box and plug it into their computer, that's what it's set at. And that's pretty frustrating. Most people who really need a magnifier and have to use it use 6 or 7 times. So that's your window onto the same screen. So whereabouts do you think you want to put the important information? Top left. Or at least give them some handlebars to, something they can run down. So when you get that lovely centred, poetic, fully justified column of text, they haven't got a clue. So you get the first line and then you can't find the start of the second line because it's shorter. Then the next one starts over here and you lose your place really quickly. You imagine, reading a page of text but looking through there. So just thinking, this is why we like things to be left justified where possible, or at least to have some sort of guideline that you can pick up. Right justified gives you that ragged edge and it's really hard to follow. Yeah.
Just going back to the PDF computer screen link thing, is there a way to fix it?
Don't buy the cheap product. No. The very expensive products, no. You can reorder a PDF in one of the Adobe products. Basically, you have to go in and say, throw away the reading order you've got and handcraft a new one. It's better not to get in that situation if you can help it.
And if you use an Adobe product to start off with,
it should be a recent one, yeah.
The reading order would be reasonably good.
Or at least you have control about how it was done. It's often those things where they go and get me the template for the back of the page, go and get me basically do a mail merge really to make it up. And it's usually bills.
What a stupid question.
There's no stupid questions.
How could you possibly just run it through something to see if it was doing that?
There's some free screen readers you could throw it through. You can look, if you've got Adobe, you can look at the structure of the page and it'll show you. I'm going to just be glossing over that because I don't know how. I don't know the details, but it does allow you to examine the structure and look at the reading order.
Question, Stephanie, because I think
it's a huge question.
Because I tried to find a screen reader and get it working to read me something, and it was all a bit too hard.
Yeah.
And I think, in order to really experience what we've created and what a ghastly mess we've created, we need to have some tips on how to implement all this stuff.
A good one.
Experience the horror. Experience the horror.
A good one is if you've got an iOS device, you turn the screen reader on, and you just swipe right. That takes it from this chunk of text to that. But actually, iOS is better at coping with bad stuff than.
But just be really careful that you haven't accidentally opened Tinder. Sorry.
Does that happen? Ian, you aware of this?
You need very good
I should have asked you to print some of these, but there's a link to this. This is a really useful graphic. And what I like about these guys is, you go to the page, they've done an infographic, and they've also done a text version. So the same information, and the information is presented on the web page. So the same information presented in different ways for different users.
Did they put the text version into alt text, or did they put it into the
they've done a separate downloadable text version as well, but it's on the page as well. So it's not alt text from the graphic. This is an alternative presentation. But for the audience here, great thing to have on the side of your.
It's
into your wall.
completely useless. I can't see it.
Follow the link there. Yeah. Oop. So yeah, there's that. I've really ruined this slide.
Are you going to share this with us so that we can pop it on?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Go.
Online forums. So again, nothing that anyone in this room will be surprised about, but think about the literacy of your users and using plain language. I guess from a content writer's perspective, you're really relying on the techies to make sure the labelling is good. But always, one thing that people often forget about when they're designing a form is the feedback if something goes wrong. So when you have one of those mandatory fields, make sure that the message you get back is kind of useful. Preferably, if you can get it up front so that it says, you must put the dates in an American format, rather than waiting for them to get it wrong and then coming back with a thing saying, this is a mandatory field. And you go, well, I filled it in, I put a date in it. So thinking from a content, or thinking about making that useful information, what do I need to know so that I don't have to get the error path? So I need to know that it's a mandatory field. The good news is the old asterisk is recognised as being it. So you don't need to write mandatory field. People get the asterisk at the end of the label. But make sure your techies explicitly associate the label with the form field. Thinking about what info is vital, you don't want to spend 3 days filling in the form just because marketing want all that information for some random reason. But sometimes you don't have any control about that. So if you can complete and submit it online, that's the most flexible. Just about anyone can do that if they've got the right tools. But you still get some of the ones that they insist on getting a hard copy signature. At least if you can complete it online and then print it out, all you've got to do is sign it.
So can blind people sign?
Yeah. If someone points to
That
where...
was a sacrificial, stupid question.
It's not ever the smartest signature. But with Adobe, you can just drop a signature in. Yep. And please avoid. Does everyone know what capture is?
It's a
Traffic
PIA.
failing guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many road signs? Well, it's a good question.
It's great how many road signs. If you can't see the picture, you can't answer that.
But normally there is, I mean, generally they have an oral one or a few options for different types of...
Kate will know Terry. Terry and I sat through 10 of those audio captures. Both of us listening. I could see not this Terry, sorry, another Terry. She's blind. We sat through 10 of them and gave up.
Okay.
Because that's obscured as well. Otherwise it'd be too easy to have. Yeah. Yeah. Just don't go there. There's lots of ways around it. If you're, wherever you're working, if they insist on using capture, give me a call. I'll point you to a bunch of resources. So we've got rid of capture at the council now, and we've got what they call a honeypot. So it's an extra field that no one else ever sees, but it's hidden off screen, and it basically says don't fill this in. So even if the screen reader picks up that field, they'll go, don't fill it in. But what normally happens with the robots is they tick every box. They don't know that it's off screen. They're not looking at the styling. They just see, there's 10 fields. I must fill in 10 fields. The other one is to maybe do something on the server side. So it says, if anyone fills this form in less than, say, 3 seconds, they're probably a robot. Just ignore those. Yeah? That kind of thing. So there's lots of ways you can build up defences without having to put these awful captures on. And the first time you get hacked, someone will say, put a capture on.
Can you tell the Metro bus stop to keep these in?
I wish I could, they're not council. Okay. So when we talked about make sure your labels are right, what if your form looked like that? What would you do? I mean...
Resign.
Yeah, because your screen reader knows... So your screen reader can tell you that they're radio buttons. It can tell you that's a text field. So it can tell you the next one's a text field. But it can't tell you what the label is unless that label's explicitly associated with the field. So all you hear there is radio button, and it can read the complement feedback. Yeah. Text field, edit. Text field, edit. You really would find that quite difficult.
Especially if one was mandatory.
Yeah. We can't even see the mandatory because, yeah. There you go. That one's mandatory. And even though I said we could get by with the star, we still use required at the council occasionally. But that's probably much easier to work with. So again, making sure your labels are explicitly... there's a bit of HTML code that basically says that is the label for that field. Because if you just have text field, when you tab through, and the screen reader user will tab through, they'll go from that field to that field to that field. They won't see that at all. So even if the text is there, they won't hear it without having to go, oh, hang on, I need to arrow back up and see if there's a label for this. So you can fill in forms really quickly with the screen reader, or you can suffer. The other one to think about is, imagine this was a table. You'd use a table to set this lovely form out. I'm not sure why you would, but... So you had small text fields over here, but the labels are where they are. Think about the placing, because if you think back to that screen reader, the magnification that can only see a quarter of the screen, they can see the labels. By the time they've swung across, they've lost the relationship between the label and the... And then, again, often you get it with bills. You get all the labels over here, all the totals over here. At the very least, if you can put that like a grey, white, so there's at least something to guide you across, so you're not sliding up and down.
Just curious, if you're blind
yep.
and you're going through this, does it go to the heading and read the heading and then the next click is into the box, or does it go into the box?
If you arrow through it, will, but the way you fill them is by tabbing, and it takes you from form field to form field. So you tab into there. Oops, I can't click on this, can I? Because it's... Sorry. So as you tab into there, if the label's explicitly associated, it will say text field, message.
Right. And then you type.
And then you type away. Because the idea, if you're arrowing, you're going in and out of what they call Well, you're basically going in and out of reading and entry mode, which gets really annoying. I love this one. So I've got a copy of this. So things to think about with the documents: fonts, images, links, tables, and headings, which gives you the filth of your documents. The guy who used to work for me at the Blind Foundation wrote this, and it's a really neat little thing. There's a bunch printed out there. It's probably about enough for everyone, I think. Unfortunately, they've taken it down from their website, which is. But yeah, some good reminders.
No, I clearly needed to move.
It's okay.
Sorry, I forgot to mention it.
Yeah.
So the entire back row.
Worth checking. Everybody's on beyond 2010 now, aren't they? You know when you I don't know. I try not to use the thing at all, but from 2010 onwards they built in an accessibility checker. So you know when you go to the file menu, is it the file menu? The one where it changes everything and fills the whole screen, and in there's a little accessibility checker. So click on that, it'll run through your document and it'll say, you haven't got any headings, there's no structure on this. And not only will it tell you what you've done wrong, it'll tell you why it's important, it'll tell you how to fix it. So that's worth knowing. So if you're going to write that document you're then going to save as a PDF, do the accessibility check at the same time as you do your final spell check. Preferably early on so that you... Right. But you'll get used to it. As long as you're using styles and thinking about stuff, you probably won't fail much on there. It'll tell you if there's no alt text on your images, that kind of thing. So it's a good check. You mean you wouldn't send... No, I'm not going to say that out. You probably wouldn't send anything out without spell checking it. Yeah, you can create a simple PDF from Word. That's an old statement. But yeah, InDesign, about the same time as that statement was made, InDesign made some real improvements in their process. So we got away from that, chunking the stuff on the page in a bad way and having to manually sort it out. Oh. Wow. Questions?
I didn't do that.
Questions? Yeah.
I was wondering with alt text, is there a kind of preferred syntax or like active voice or plain language? Is there in jokes? Is there shorthand things? Is there kind of a unique?
No, I mean be succinct, be plain language, be succinct. But the important thing is to make sure what's the message the picture's saying? Yeah.
But without over-interpreting it.
Yes.
So there's some really good guidance on the web that talks about describing the literal thing that is being displayed without necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, sort of going back to the dogs. If it's just a picture of the black lab, but it's the black lab wearing the particular coat. The particular coat's the important thing, not the fact it's a cute black lab. So maybe you talk about the name of the dog might be important, or it might just be a generic dog. Yeah.
If somebody's frowning, it's better to say that they're frowning than to decide that they're angry.
Yes, unless the intention of the picture is to create that. Yeah, and sometimes you won't know that.
Yeah.
But
how will you describe a dyslexic-friendly website, like in terms of pictures, and if you want to point out into a particular content, there are another one?
I think plenty of white space. Again, give the text room. A good solid font, maybe even quite a heavy font. Dyslexia is not my key skill, but what I understand is, don't do one of those websites where every line's in a different colour. But it's the same sort of skills as we've talked about. So keeping a clear line to read. So you've got a clear anchor down one side. You know where the words are going. You're not having to struggle. So you've not got fully justified with the rivers, the same as print, and you've not got a ragged edge on the left, so that the reader can get to the end of one line and then find the start of the next, that kind of thing.
Will you take out pictures and diagrams?
I honestly don't know. I think I'd probably leave some in, but maybe not overpowering, maybe subtle. But I'm not an expert in dyslexia, so from what I remember, the British Dyslexia Association's got some really good advice, but it's been a long time since I looked there. And I'm sure they're not the only ones, it's just they're the ones I found. Yeah.
Do you know whether the accessibility machines are standardised, or would you have to learn a machine that would pronounce, or maybe say, this is a text field, and then you get a new machine and it doesn't say text field, it says other things? Or do you know whether there's...
They're pretty standard. There's only really 3 main ones, and people tend not to change from one to another. Yeah. The other thing I didn't talk about was make sure your documents have got the language, and they've not got the wrong language. A lot of documents seem to get made in Switzerland for some reason, and they come across marked up as Swiss French. And hilarity ensues when you copy and paste a chunk of text from one of those into the middle of an email, and suddenly you get hello, hello voice. Because the screen reader's going, I don't have a French I've got a French synthesizer, this is French, but the words don't look, I'll pronounce them as like a Frenchman pronouncing it. It can be quite, good morning, yes, it can be quite amusing, but yeah, don't forget to mark up your language. I didn't cover that there, but yeah, I've seen that a few times. Why did that happen? It took a while to work out, but yeah, it was a piece of text that had been copied out of a document that had been processed somewhere where the language settings were not the language of the main document.
I was curious, you mentioned that you were kind of a gatekeeper at the council for the accessibility. Is there a specific... Are you enacting a policy, or are you kind of on a one-man crusade?
No, we've got a policy that the website is user-focused, and our users are all citizens. So that's one of the reasons I got the job, was because they went, we'll have a cheap tester and you can do this stuff for nothing.
Hike up your rate.
I tried.
But it does raise a really important question, which is why do we care about this stuff? And some of us care because of our users, and some of us sort of pay lip service to it but don't spend enough time on it. That's me.
That's not true.
Well, but for anybody working in the public service, if it's not enacted in law now, it soon will be, that anything that you create needs to be accessible to all. So it's important. And it must add a layer of time and complexity until you get good at it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, my devs are now pretty good at it, so I don't have to keep sending it back. Yeah.
They've learned it's not going to get past you.
Yeah.
Right.
So is it just double encoded, double speech marks for null? Have you just put
Yes,
that?
alt equals double speech marks, as opposed to alt equals...
So it's just in that field, because it's usually a content editor, so if you just put double speech marks...
Good question.
Because it's labelled as alt.
Yeah. I don't know the practicalities of getting that.
Sorry, that's what we want you for, the practicality.
I don't know what tool you're using, I'm in
Yeah, well, exactly. What tool are you using?
I'm just thinking about some stuff I've created in Adapt.
Yeah.
Adapt.
I mean, can you look at the...
equal 3 tool.
Yeah. Are you able to look at the code behind it once it's been created?
Is there a manual? I'm serious. Shh. Well, it might be in the manual, you know.
I would probably give it a stab in the dark and then run it through the free screen reader, to be honest. Coming out.
I probably wouldn't bother with the screen reader. I'd probably go and have a look at the code, but I'm kind of that way because it was quicker. So if it was a web page, I'd just do a right-click inspect, or F12, and then you can see the code and you go alt equals. Yeah. I'm just wondering whether you, with a tool like that, whether you just that's going to put the quote marks in all. Because if you were going to put words in, you wouldn't put quotes, word, quote. So I wonder if you just leave it blank, but not space. It's actually got to be blank. It might be that the tool doesn't allow it. In which case, put something.
The tool does allow.
For a null.
It does allow you to leave the space blank, but I don't know if it actually fills it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It may not create an alt equals.
See, I knew
Give it a go.
The subject is fascinating.
I just wanted to ask actually about accessibility in terms of inclusivity of, gender diversity and, gender identification diversity and things like that. Whether there's a crossover between and there's a lot of review of forms and things like that is going on around, you know, having to choose female or male and things like that. Is that something that's part of an accessibility issue, or is that addressed in accessibility guidelines? Do you know?
I don't think it's addressed as such. I think users would just be glad if they could fill the form in on their own. And then worry about what the questions are.
I think it's more on statistic standards.
Yeah.
So
it'd be about the questions you asked around disability, which is kind of not where we are. What we're talking about now. I always loved my old boss Neil used to say, he's dreaming of the day when everything's accessible because he wants to throw the junk mail away and know he's throwing away rubbish. Because at the moment he just gets a load of stuff he has to throw away. He wants the right to be annoyed by junk mail.
Yeah. So I've seen a few people taking notes. Does anybody want to write up, you know, the key experience of tonight? Good.
Did you notice the volunteers?
Yeah, they flooded me. Yeah. We can just post the video.
You've got the PowerPoint slides there.
Look, we're going to have the PowerPoint slides. Yes, we've got the PowerPoint slides. We've got the handout. There's also there's some really good contrast checking.
Yes, we have taken out of that, so I must put that
on the internet. So if you just Google contrast checker, you'll find several hits that allow you to type in the background and foreground colours and go fail, pass, whatever.
My favourite's the Paciello, Paciello colour contrast analyzer, because that's got a dropper, so you don't have to know. I mean, designers love it. Oh, I know the hex value for that. Well, normal people don't. But if you just go to the document or you can do it on anything. You go grab the foreground colour, and it works out. So it just as with an eyedropper thing. So that's really neat.
So what would be quite good would be to start a channel on Slack for accessibility where you could actually post your questions and people could jump in. So there's a Tech Commons Ed Slack channel.
That's neatly done. That's neatly done.
I know.
Yeah.
See what I did there? I never read it, so don't expect any advice from me. But it might be a good way to share questions and answers. So, if anybody's keen to champion that, feel free. I'll facilitate it. What else? Oh, there's an AGM on the 23rd of July. I'll mention that.
This is where you all burst into writer's applause, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, as I exit stage left.
No.
So, the other question is, do you mind if people email you with questions?
Not at all.
And is this a good time to mention that if your business does need some expert advice, Kevin can provide it when he's not working for the council?
We've got about 3 cards here, but it's really easy. Kevin at Access 1 in 5.
Yeah, you can ask me. Anybody can ask me and I'll share it. Good. Final questions, because actually, you know, it is nearly 7:15. Wow. I'm hungry. Any final questions?
Thank you.
3 years will come back?
I think actually we need to air this every year. You get a new cohort of people listening, and we need to spread the word on this because it's important.